Hey, this is Overpass Insights. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today we're going to look at last year's Appodeal Performance Index and we're going to talk about the 3 factors you can improve in your application to improve ad revenue. Alright, so I get asked and I attempt to answer a lot of questions about apps. This could be on our live stream, this could be through consultation, this could be via email, but a lot of the time the question is about AdMob RPM. How can I get my RPM up, or even other ad networks? How can I get my revenue up for these ads? And a lot of times I say you don't have a lot of control over that. Like, you can't control how much people are bidding for those ads. However, there are 3 things that you do have control over which make a huge difference, which is the type of ad that you're serving, whether it be interstitial, banner, rewarded, the platform that you're serving it on, if it's iOS or Android, and the location that it's actually being served in. So if you have some countries are going to have lower eCPMs or lower RPMs than other countries. Anyway, a few weeks ago, one of our viewers, John Mollahan, sent through a Appodeal report, which is really interesting and demonstrates a lot of this kind of stuff. And this is going to be a really short video because I just wanted to go through that report, not in detail, mainly just some of the high-level stuff, and really to include the report in the description so you can have a look at it yourself. But have a look at my screen here. You can see this is the 2019 performance index for ad monetization, or for app monetization using ads. Right now, a lot has changed since 2019 with the pandemic and everything, and I think it's going to be one of these things where we're going to look at before the pandemic and after the pandemic, but there's no reason at this moment to think that the world has changed in terms of ad revenue. So we're still going to have a look at it even though it's from last year, because they haven't done one for this year, obviously. So let's have a look down here. Basically, it goes into the global eCPMs and divides it by countries, by the US, by Eastern Europe, by Western Europe, let's just go through some of the big stuff. And it talks about the 3 big ad types. Rewarded videos, which I used a lot in the past, but I don't use so much anymore. Interstitials, which I use mostly, but I also use banners. So let's just go down here. And they looked at the last 12 months, basically from H2 2018 to H1 2019, which is basically July to June of last year. And let's have a look here. So the United States having the top eCPM, but basically we're looking at rewarded videos. Now if you do just banner ads, your eCPM or your RPM is going to be a lot lower than that. So let's just go through here, key insights. It talks about some of the developing markets are growing, but have a look at these figures right here. This is like probably the most important. When we talk about the different regions we see and the different platforms we see in the US, we got for rewarded video we got 1582 as the eCPM, 1281 for Android. So like a lot of iOS developers will tell you that even though you might have fewer impressions on iOS because you have fewer downloads, or well, it depends on how it goes, you actually have higher eCPM, so your per user revenue is going to be a bit higher. And again, this is for rewarded video. Now let's go down here. There's a lot of really good stuff in this report for you to have a look at, which I'll include in the description. And thanks very much to John for sending that in. But let's have a look. This is one I wanted to show you, was down here, the global eCPMs. So again, broken down by country. Obviously, the United States is going to have a higher eCPM. So if you can have more ad placements there, you can. If you look at, as you go down the different countries, it drops significantly. So if you have ads being served in a low value country, that's one of the things going to affect your RPM, so or your eCPMs and your RPMs, which is revenue per mil, or the estimated cost per mil. All right, so let's go down here to, again, this guy. We look at the different. Have a look at this chart here. Now this is the USA, but it pretty much mirrors the rest of the regions too. Here we get the impression share. Now still we have like 85%, what does that say? 88% of impressions are still banners, which a lot of people say, how come I'm not making so much money? And I'll say, are you using banners or interstitials? Right? Because we still have, most people are using banners, which makes total sense. They don't get in the way, they don't bother the user so much, and they're also easier to ignore, so you get paid a lot less for them. Interstitials only 11%, and rewarded videos only 1%, which makes sense because it's more awkward to move that into your application. But over here we see, in terms of ad revenue share, we see 12% for rewarded videos. Again, I need to look at this a lot more. For interstitials, 55% and only 33% for banners. So even though banners have a lot more impressions, they're making a lot less money. It doesn't mean you shouldn't use them, it's just sort of one of these things. And then it's broken down by ad network. Now, I've always been a big proponent of AdMob, and one of the things that John in his email to me was saying was like, you need to start looking at Facebook a bit more. So here we can see the eCPM was a 21.42. For AdMob, again, it's still really high. And then we've got the Facebook at 22.42 here, and then AppLovin, sorry, got AppLovin, AdColony, Bid Machine, all this kind of stuff. So I'm not going to talk too much more about this report. I just really wanted to spend today just to point it out to you. I'll include a link in the description, so have a look at it. And anything that you find interesting, put it in the comments below, because again, there's so much useful information here. It basically takes this and it will break it down into the different regions here too, the top based on, on platform, on region, and on ad type, which are the three main variables that you actually have control over, because you don't have any control over the actual revenue that comes in. So anyway, let me know if this has been helpful. Again, I'm just pointing out something that already exists. None of these are my statistics, but I think it's fascinating, especially for those of us who make a living doing this kind of stuff. Let me know in the comments anything you find interesting in this report. And that is it for today. I'll talk to you guys again next time.